So what happens when tenants stop paying rent or they break the lease? This can be the downsides of real estate investing, and it's a headache for everyone. It's no fun having to deal with an eviction in any case or having to get rid of a tenant for bad reasons. So today I'm going to be diving into what actually happens and how to get the process going, started, and completed in an eviction process for the state of New Hampshire. It does vary for state to state. This is going to be for New Hampshire, and I believe most of them are kind of around the same basis, but timelines and a little bit of notices can be different. So make sure you do your own research for whatever state you're working in and actually doing the eviction in. My name is Moynihan. I'm a real estate agent and investor based out of Keene, New Hampshire. And if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest around the New Hampshire area, I cover most of southern New Hampshire. Feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to help. And of course, as an agent, I'm also an investor, and I am very investor friendly. I believe in house hacking. I believe in creating wealth through real estate by investing in properties, kind of letting growth happen on its own and still supplying housing for people that are in need and supplying that affordable housing for the people who can't afford to buy a house or they can't go get a mortgage and in situations like that. So there's a bunch of upsides to real estate investing as you do supply housing for people that can't buy it on their own. But there is some downsides with real estate investing, like, well, the problem comes up when the tenants stop paying rent, or maybe they break a certain thing in your lease, they cause harm or problems to other tenants, and you just have enough and you have to get rid of them. So I'm going to be going through the steps to actually go through the eviction and how to get them out so that you can get your unit back and get it re-rented to some people that will be actually responsible and pay the rent. So there's a few things I want to get out real quick before we actually go through the process of eviction. And one of them is with me being in New Hampshire. Again, this is for New Hampshire. It's a really landlord friendly state. Some states are landlord friendly and some states are tenant friendly. And if you're in a tenant friendly state, the eviction process is going to be even more of a headache for you, probably cost you more money and take longer. For state of New Hampshire, it can all be done within 7 days if everything goes right, or after 7 days, I should say, because you have to give the 7-day notice. But it's a lot quicker and again, landlord friendly. So it's a big thing. It's also, if you're just starting your investing journey, something that you should look into. Look for states that are specifically friendly to landlords, because sometimes if they're tenant friendly, it's good for the tenants, yes, but it can cost the landlords lots of money when they're just sitting in the building not paying rent and you're going through the eviction, but it's taking forever because they tend to err on the side of the tenant and not the landlord in those states. And now the other thing I want to point out is that evictions suck for everyone involved. For you as a landlord, it costs you money, it costs you time, and it's lost rent, of course, because that's mainly the reason why you're kicking the people out, unless they broke something else in the lease that isn't necessarily non-payment of rent. But before you actually start the eviction process and go through all that headache, you should really just talk with your tenant and try to negotiate. Now, I know this sounds crazy because guess what? They already miss money and they owe you money technically because they miss rent. So it's kind of a weird concept, but the biggest one that works is cash for keys. It's where you literally offer them cash, be like, hey, I'll pay you X amount if you're out in this amount of time. You know that you haven't paid rent and this isn't working. I don't want to go through the eviction process for both our sakes, because me, it's a headache. For you, if it goes through, you get an eviction on your record, and now it's going to be even that much harder to find your next place. So how about I give you some money, you move out as a civil adult, leave the property in better condition, which is a bonus for you, and as a landlord, you'll get it done faster. And then I'm going to give you money to put towards your next rental or wherever you're going so that you can kind of go and just basically get out of the landlord's hair. All right, so now for the eviction process. But before I jump into this, I just want to state right here, this is not legal advice. I am simply a real estate agent and investor who did their research, came up with this video, and I'm just putting it out there on the internet for people to see, view, and use as a resource. But again, do your own research and contact the people you need to contact to actually get this stuff done. So the first thing, of course, when you're starting the eviction process is, do you actually have a cause to evict the tenant? Again, this is non-payment of rent, breaking something in the lease, or causing harm or destruction to the property or other tenants, and things like that. Do you actually have a cause to do it? So that's the first thing you want to come up with, and make sure you're documenting all of this, because it can help a ton, especially when or if you do go to court and the tenant tries to appeal. So in New Hampshire, before anything happens, the landlord actually has to give written notification to the tenant that they are late and they are demanding rent. Now, after you did that, the first step is to actually post a 7-day notice to pay or quit. And that just simply means pay what is due or quit, which means forfeit the property and move out. And if they do not move out within those 7 days that you gave them the period to either pay or quit, after that 7-day period is where you can file a lawsuit to actually get them evicted and go through the court process. Now, that is for non-payment of rent. Now, if it's something where they broke a condition in the lease, usually it's a 30-day notice that you have to give them saying, hey, you broke this, you can remedy it or fix the problem, but you don't have to necessarily give them a timeline. You just say either like you fix the problem or you're out in 30 days. And again, after that 30 days, if nothing happens, they don't move out, any of that, that is when you file the lawsuit to actually go through with the eviction. And then one more situation, if they actually do like extreme damage, like I don't necessarily know what it'd be, maybe like causing a fire or something where they do cause harm and you kind of have to like either rebuild some parts of it or something like that goes wrong. That is also a 7-day notice where it's like, hey, there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about this. You got 7 days or you need to be out. Again, after that, start the eviction process. Now, a tenant can appeal an eviction, and basically, there's not a ton of ways they can win, especially in a landlord-friendly state. But the biggest thing they can do is to appeal it and buy time for them to stay in that building longer and be more of a pain in the butt for you and more of a headache, causing you to lose more money because it's going to be longer before you can actually re-rent it to people who pay their rent. So if they do appeal it, of course, you guys are going to have to go to court and get it settled and kind of make sure, again, you document everything so you can present it to the judge, show everything that's happening. And if you win, you'll get a writ of possession, which is basically the thing that actually allows a sheriff or a law enforcement officer to come out and execute that writ, which means that they have to get out of the property, is basically what it means. And you need to have a law enforcement officer there to actually do it, make sure everyone's moved out. And if they actually leave like personal belongings behind, at least in the state of New Hampshire, you have to hold it as a landlord at your expense for 7 days. After that 7 days, if they don't come pick it up, you can throw it out, do whatever you want for it. You don't have to tell them you're throwing it out. After 7 days, you're free and clear. You can do whatever the heck you want with it. It's now your stuff or the trash's stuff, however you want to handle that situation. And one other thing I do want to mention that I kind of skipped over is leases. If you're on a month-to-month lease and any of this stuff happens, you just have to give a 30-day notice because you're on a month-to-month lease. So it's more of the cases where you're actually in a time frame lease, so like a yearly lease or a 6-month lease, however you structure your lease. Me personally, I like to stick to month just because it's easier when stuff like this does come. Knock on wood, let's hope it never does. It hasn't for me yet. But in case it does come, having a month is just easier, just being like, hey, I'm giving you 30-day notice, you got to get out. So it's a little less barriers to jump over for you to actually get your unit back and be able to get it re-rented. So again, I hope this like kind of gives you a good breakdown of it. It's a pretty short process, to be honest, especially in New Hampshire. It's pretty simple. I think the average one for like an eviction, for all the paperwork stuff, I'm not talking about lost rent and damage to the property, but for the actual process of eviction, it's around, I think I saw it was an average of $186 to $200. So it's not very expensive. It's more just the actual rent you've lost and the reason why you're evicting them, or the damage they cause to property. It's more those things that cost you money than the actual process of eviction. So I kind of hope that gives you a little bit more of an insight into it. And again, a great way to kind of just avoid this huge headache is to try to negotiate cash for keys. Most of the time, the tenant's in a bad situation, hence why they haven't given you rent money, because they're literally not paying for where they live. So it's definitely not the best situation for them. So if you're offering them cash saying, hey, take this, get out of my hair, go find yourself a new apartment. If you don't, I'm going through the eviction process, dude. And chances are you're going to get an eviction on your record, and it's just going to make it that much harder to find a new place. Like, no landlord, speaking as a landlord, no landlord wants to do that. It sucks. It sucks for everyone. It's no fun. You don't want to like cause someone else to have issues with getting an apartment. But it's also like, I'm letting you rent my space to live in and be your housing. So like, it's just those things with renting. But I hope this kind of broke it down for you, gave you some ideas of how you can go about it. Again, negotiations always great. And if not, you have to go through the eviction. You got to do what you got to do to get your rental back and actually be able to rent to people who are paying. So, with all that being said, I hope that this was informative for you. If it was, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps more than you can imagine. And if you know anyone that would kind of get some nuggets from this, feel free to share it with them. That would be awesome. Follow me on my social medias. I always put the link in the description below. I put reels out, and I also do weekly videos on real estate investing related topics. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach on out to me. I'm a real estate agent and investor, so I'm pretty well versed in the space. And if I don't have the answer, I'll either find it for you or I'll get in touch with someone that can get the answer for you. Without further ado, I'll catch you next week.